Okay, so again, welcome. This is going to be what I think is going to be a very, very interesting panel. We have 6 panelists this time, so they're going to be very tightly packed up on the stage, which I apologize for because we only have half a stage here. We probably should have scheduled it for the first one in the morning because it was the whole thing. But anyhow, we're going to have a session here on OT, IT, OT Cybersecurity Convergence, or OT, IT Cybersecurity Convergence, depending on your perspective, I guess. And what's going on? Before we do it, I'm going to remind you again, all of those companies have booths out here, so I encourage you to go and visit them. I think there are a lot of smart people there. They can talk about it, learn about their solutions, complain to them, whatever it is you like to do. And you can do it with a smile on your face, with a drink in your hand. Okay, so this session, as I mentioned, is about IT-OT convergence. And let me just frame it again. Hopefully this isn't a long presentation. I'm a little worn out here. But this is something we put together a long time ago at ARC, just as a way to frame the kind of cyber assets that we have to deal with, that industrial companies deal with. And it's a simple picture, I know, but on the right are IT assets, IT issues. On the left are OT issues, OT assets. Top are systems, the bottom are devices, or IoT devices. We consider all of those as part of cybersecurity. And I think you're all familiar with the kinds of things on the OT, you have PLCs and those kind of devices. But you have a lot of PCs and things on the right. It's more printers, servers, lots of things like that. What happened here? Oh, I don't know why that all went away. But anyhow, if you look at the world today, at least the world I see, there's kind of like 2 worlds there. There's an IT, and this is purely from a cybersecurity perspective. On the right, you see there's an IT cybersecurity focus and cybersecurity group that tends to take care of those systems. Notice the cloud is mostly that group as well, I think, or maybe some companies even have different groups for the cloud. And on the left, you have the OT cybersecurity group. And what we're talking about in the end is bringing them together. Okay, let me just use this slide. Again, you've probably seen this more than you want to today. And now I've been corrected and told my terminology is bad, so I have to deal with that by Dow Chemical, so the ongoing argument. But anyhow, one of the big issues we see in that is not a technology issue. There's a lot of technologies to do cybersecurity in plants. It's got to do more with resources. Everybody seems to have resource issues. I, for one, am one that is in favor of seeing more people do IT-OT cybersecurity convergence. For that purpose, I tend to look from that end up. So that's the issue we're going to talk about, is not just that, but also I think there's an issue, and I think I got rid of the slide, but there's also an issue I think that I may be wrong, but I think the IT people with the digital transformation and things like that are happening could probably use some insight from the OT people. When you say we got to collect more data, they don't know what data to get, they don't know how to get it, they don't know what the constraints are, they want to put in devices. You need to have the support of the people in the plants to do that. So both of those are driving it. One of the drivers in the OT space, I think, another driver in addition to the fact that there aren't enough people right today, is the fact that the technology is changing and it's becoming more and more and more IT-ish. So, and more susceptible to the same kind of problems. I think it has to be managed in a similar way as IT technology to some extent. It's probably more microprocessors than PCs and things, but servers, lots of servers, more cloud apps, more cloud interfaces. So it's another driver. And this is kind of the new architecture that we see. I think you all saw this slide earlier today. I don't want to bore you with going over the same slides a couple times, or it's just me. It's late in the day for me, so I apologize. So there's the IT-OT. That's what we're talking about, is going there. Some way to combine those 2 functions. And I showed this slide earlier today, and this is what I see many people considering. And notice I put the CISO in the middle, who's out of pulling their hair out, or his or her hair out, saying, I don't know how to deal with this. There's a lot of issues with that. Some of the issues I don't have there. I mean, I show you the objectives. Most people are saying, we want to bring these groups together. There's pressure from the boards, from the top management, just saying, How do we get rid of all of our cybersecurity problems? Why do we have to have different teams for this and different teams for that? Can't you work together? I'm sure you get that all the time, I would assume. And some of the things that people want is some kind of a cybersecurity organization that's going to take responsibility end to end for the process, whatever that business process is for manufacturing. They expect to have kind of globally, they want to have governance of all the plants, all the systems in some rational way that's consistent. And a lot of them are, the IT people in particular, I think, are being struggled because they're being tasked to deal with all these cybersecurity issues. They're saying, I need to get visibility of what's going on. It's one thing, they take care of their own systems. But now if they say, I have to take care of OT, how do I even see what's in the OT system to get it? That's a common complaint I hear, or request that I hear. And the model is pretty much some kind of an IT. Most companies I talk to kind of say, we understand for OT you have to have people in the plants. You can't do that all remotely. Now maybe you can, and I don't know that. Most people I know would say, no, I don't want anybody changing anything without line of sight or knowing it or having coordinated with the operations people. So certain things have to be done in the site, though they're willing to say certain things can be done remotely, some kind of remote support, but you can't just survive by saying an IT person in a SOC will take care of everything by just remote connecting. So usually it's an IT operations team. I mean cybersecurity there when I say operations, which actually, or an OT operations team. And in both cases, I mean, it could be, they don't necessarily have to be just cybersecurity. Oftentimes they have dual roles. You might have an OT cybersecurity team that's really the automation engineers or the people in the plant there anyhow. And then you may or may not have a SOC. Everybody talks about, I mean, I don't know if they frame it that way. That's how I would frame it. But very often it's not a physical SOC. It's not the Star Trek room, but it could be for a big company. But it's at least a virtual team of some type where there's some structure in place where you say, if I have a problem, this is who I call. There's an escalation process that can say, you take care of them at this level, and then as we go up, we'll take care of more of them. You expect people to be there. The challenges that, again, I changed slides, I don't have it on here, but the kind of challenges that we hear a lot about are ones like cultural challenges. There's a big difference between IT and OT groups. There's I wish I could remember my slide, I apologize. Oh, there's technical differences in the technology that's there. You know, maintaining a new, and I don't want to imply that IT systems are updated every week or something like that, but newer operating systems versus Windows 98. There's cultural, there's constraint issues as to what you can do from a process point of view, cybersecurity processes. And another issue that I think comes up is, okay, everybody will agree, yeah, we have those problems, those are differences. Now who manages it? And one thing I've seen is different perspectives from that two ends, as you might imagine. The OT people say, I'm happy to let them help me. And the IT people are kind of say, well, I'll let you support me. You know, it's that kind of a perspective. So there's different views, and both I think are valid or have validity to them. And one thing I just want to mention, and I have on this slide, is, you know, the issue's not just a technology issue. It's a people, process, and technology issues. There are certainly a lot of people issues. Who's going to do it? And one of the goals is to maximize the resources that people have, because cybersecurity expertise is so limited today. I heard somebody in our last panel, I think it was Dan Brzezinski, excuse me. I don't know if he's still in here, but somebody made a comment about having 200 people in their company doing cybersecurity. I was wondering about that. I'm not sure there's 500 in the country that can do it, or in the world maybe, at least. But anyhow, having people and with cross-training and having these global support teams, there are process differences, like I just said about, you know, you can't, once you put together policies, there might be policies that you wish you could put in the same policies everywhere, but you find out, no, they just don't work everywhere, at least in certain operations. And that's what we're going to have the discussion about, to see how my observations, whether they're right or not right. And then technology-wise, there's a lot of difference in technology. And I don't mean just the technology being maintained, the cyber assets. I mean the tools you use to maintain it. or some, there's certain tools. I know IT groups have certain tools that do a lot of automated stuff using web-based, internet-based, maybe II type techniques to help with threat detection, malware detection, all that kind of stuff, which simply don't work within an OT environment, or most people would say they don't work. So there's differences in the assets being maintained as well as the technology that's needed to maintain it.